Is a playoff position salvageable at this season? And if so, what do they need to do to get there with the deadline coming up?
So we've dropped, I think, is it 3 straight now or 4, maybe even?
Right. That loss against the Avs should count as about 6, but
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. God, that Stars game on Saturday would have been a really nice one to get. It was sick that they battled and got a point out of it, but man, that would have been a really nice way to end things right before the break if we were able to actually win that one OT. But alas, um, here's what I'll say. I think much like I've already discussed about the All-Star break with all teams in the NHL, for the Caps, it's going to come down to what happens the first 2 weeks after the All-Star break. When we come back, our first, I don't know, 5 to 7 games or so, if they drop 4 or more of those games of those first 5 to 7 back, it's probably time to just start looking at next season. I mean, you're in a position now where if you can't come back and go on a little bit of a run, it's not going to happen. So to me, that's what it kind of comes down to. I don't think right now I can tell you whether or not we need to buy or sell or focus on next year or focus on this year. I do think there's a world where we could make the playoffs, make a little bit of noise. I do think it would take some acquisitions at the deadline to probably make that actually happen. I don't know if that's the way it'll go down, just because, like I said, if we come back from this break, drop a few more in a row, it's probably time to just give up for the season, for lack of a better way to put it.
No, I agree. And I think there's a point to be made that, like, hey, if they're not going to get a playoff spot this year, go get another top 10 draft choice this
For
year. Oh
sure.
my God. Like, that's a
Yeah.
no-brainer to me.
I mean,
I
one of the
will
guys
say,
we got last year, Ryan Leonard, people are already saying he could be ready if he wants to play NHL minutes next season. So, I mean, if you can get another guy like that,
right.
boom, in 1 year, he's magically ready, do it.
I totally agree with what you said about the first, 5, 6, 7 games coming out of the All-Star break. That's basically going to make or break the Washington Capitals' year, is how many of those games they win. I was thinking about this the other day. The Caps team that went into that postseason berth, their last postseason berth, against that Boston Bruins team where they had Samsonov, Vanacek, and Craig Anderson in net. I think this Caps team is much better than that Caps team. I think
For
that Caps
sure.
team made the playoffs. I don't know how. And watching all their playoff games, it was very evident that that team had no business being there. But I
Yeah.
do think that this Capitals team is in a much better position than that one is. I definitely think that if they're still within 10 points of a wild card spot come the deadline in the Metro, they can make that up.
Yeah. The tough part is the schedule is not kind to us. So
No, it's not.
we're talking about those first 5 to 7 games for them after the break. Well, let's look at them real quick. They come back Tuesday, February 6th. They host the Canadians, and that's about as easy as it's going to get for a little while. Because after that, they play the Panthers in Florida, then the Bruins in Boston, then they host the Canucks, and then they host the Avalanche.
Great.
So it's
So like 4 of the best teams in the NHL in
yeah.
like 5 games. Yeah.
And the easy one is the first one back, and we all know what happens with the Caps when they haven't played in like 10 days. So.